How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. So yesterday, big moves. Everson Pereira, Oswald Peraza going to the show. We couldn't be more excited. Once again, we're reinvigorated. We're excited to watch Yankee games. And look, I could turn on, if there was an alert that said Everson Pereira and Oswald Peraza were up to bat, I'd only turn on the TV for those two guys, honestly. I don't care to see Billy McKinney. Honestly, Billy McKinney could be gone. I think that's something we could talk about for a second here, is the two guys that will likely be demoted following these promotions. But, you know, the future of the outfield here is kind of taking some big steps forward. Everson Pereira has the quality to play in center field, both corner outfield spots. You know, who's to say that he doesn't end up starting next season in center field and they just kind of elect to move on from guys like Harrison Bader? It's totally possible. And then we know Jason Dominguez, he got elevated to AAA too. So you're seeing these guys take some big steps forward, and ultimately the future looks a little bit brighter right now. The future looks like we could actually be committing to some of our youth, and that's really, really exciting. Ryan, how are you feeling right now about the future of our outfield, where that could end up going, and if you think the Yankees may end up with an outfield that consists of guys like Dominguez and Everson Pereira next year? Because Dominguez, he's going to have more action than Anthony Volpe had in AAA over the next month and a week. You know, he has 5 weeks to get all that action in. He's going to have a bigger sample size than Volpe when he was promoted. So I don't think it's out of the question, out of the realm of consideration, that he could be starting in the outfield come 2024.
Yeah, Jason Dominguez is, and I know I'm going to come off as a little bit of a fanboy here, but Jason Dominguez is one of the most exciting offensive prospects things have had in a really long time. You know, just looking straight from, you know, a results standpoint, a 117 WRC plus in AA doesn't really stand out as overly like something that you would anticipate from a top 30 prospect, right? But the way it's progressed, the manner in which he's gotten better throughout the season, that's important. And more importantly, the process at the plate has been a lot better than the results have shown. So, you know, talking about the importance of swing decisions, right? Bat speed and swing decisions are probably the two most important variables when we're talking about how good a hitter is going to be, right? And while we can't measure bat speed right now, or we can, but there isn't any public measurements for AA, and there isn't any at the major league level either, we can look at swing decisions and try to infer, you know, whether Jason Dominguez has that part of his game locked down, and he absolutely does. In terms of in-zone swing rate, he's at a 69.9%, which is in the 83rd percentile. That means he's super aggressive when he sees strikes. Now, typically for a young player, someone who's 20 years old and hasn't faced a pitcher younger than him all season, you would anticipate that his patience at the plate wouldn't be great, that he would chase at everything. Well, he has a 21.2% chase rate, which is in the 98th percentile. So he's elite in terms of swinging at pitches in the strike zone, and he is best of the best in terms of not chasing pitches outside of the strike zone. That's really good. That's going to bode extremely well at the higher levels of the minors, and it makes him someone that should progress a lot better through the system. Now, Anthony Volpe had really good offensive tools. There's a reason why Anthony Volpe was a top 10 prospect. I feel like sometimes we kind of forget this guy was a top 10 prospect, consensus in all of baseball. But Jason Dominguez has a lot of physical tools that Anthony Volpe doesn't have at the plate, most notably the power, right? Like Jason Dominguez has ridiculous power. This dude can hit the ball 112, 113, 114 miles an hour. When we were talking about Everson Pereira a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about how you really can't teach a guy to have that level of power, right? Like, those are the kinds of things that make you stand out as a hitter. Those are the kinds of things that allow you to project to be, you know, not just a pretty good hitter, but one of the best in baseball. How many really good hitters in this sport can't absolutely destroy the baseball? You know, I know people hate the idea of, you know, going out there and trying to hit the ball as hard as possible, but for a lot of these guys, they're able to do it while not sacrificing, you know, some of their plate discipline or sacrificing whiff rates. Like, I'm pretty sure Jason Dominguez is in the 53rd percentile in whiff rate, which means he's slightly better than average in that regard. I think that's pretty good, again, for a guy who's 20. So, you know, we saw him in spring training. He was really impressive. We saw him hit some baseballs in places that you don't imagine a 20-year-old can hit baseballs. And we saw him display speed. I mean, he has 37 steals this year in 109 games. I mean, he's ridiculously fast, and he's ridiculously aggressive. This could be a guy who goes out and actually puts up a 30-30 season. This is a guy who can go out and, you know, help this team, right? I don't know if it's going to happen this year. I don't think it's going to happen this year. But could it happen next year, right? Like, as you mentioned, and we're drawing parallels to Volpe here because we saw the way the Yankees handled his promotion. Is it one really good spring training and not even a great stint? Like, Volpe was not very good in AAA last year, right? If Jason Dominguez has like a 125 to 130 WRC plus down there, and then he has a great spring training, like, what are the projections for Jason Dominguez going to look like, number one? And number two, what reason would the Yankees have to not bring him in? I mean, it gives you an excuse to not have to sign an outfielder. And as we've kind of hinted at, I mean, it feels like the Yankees aren't going to spend as much as they did that last offseason. So I guess I'd leave this with you, Alex. How comfortable would you be if Jason Dominguez put up good numbers in AAA and had a good spring training? How comfortable would you be with going with him and Pereira in the outfield together to start 2024?
I mean, I think that's in a perfect world. That's what we would see. Like because let me kind of put it this way. We have a lot of guys aging on this roster. If you go out and get a Cody Bellinger, for example, let's rule out Shohei Ohtani. It's not happening. It's not happening. If you go out and get a Cody Bellinger and you spend $200 million and whatever it might be, there's no way anybody is convincing me that one player, one acquisition is going to make this team a World Series caliber team. There's no way you're convincing me, right? The bidding war for Cody Bellinger is going to be excessive. It's going to be outrageous. And Hal Steinbrenner probably doesn't trust Cashman to go out and spend all this money again, because look at all these contracts that are aging so poorly. I think that just like any other sport, let's take like a look at football, for example. Totally different sport, totally different the way the game is played, but you're actually seeing prospects in baseball now getting called up that are like right out of the draft. That guy the Pirates got, I mean, he's already getting called up. You know what I mean? Like you're looking at a situation here where you have a 20-year-old kid who, like you said, has some like just intangible traits that are unparalleled. You can make a strong argument, and I think this is kind of the argument to make, Ryan. Do you think Jason Dominguez is a better prospect than Anthony Volpe was? You know what I mean? If you say yes, you're calling him up to start 2024 and you're not blinking an eye. Because the truth is simple. If you have a 21-year-old kid playing in left field, for example, and he has 6 years of time and he's building his talents and his skills and getting better at the MLB level, think about what that does for you financially. Think about how much pressure comes off of your back, because now you don't have to go out and spend aggressively to find these players, and these contracts are what are holding us back, guys. If we had no money, if we had expiring contracts across the board on some of these older guys, I'd be like, bad season is what it is. We reset, we keep going. We spend that money elsewhere. But the truth is we're carrying a lot of these contracts into the future. We need to start relying on some of these prospects. I know a lot of people are going to say, like, well, the Yankees have unlimited money. It is what it is. And I agree with you. Like, they could spend however much they want, and it probably wouldn't matter that much. But that's not the reality that we're in. We're in the reality that Hal Steinbrenner is trying to not go above that third luxury tax threshold. That's where his kind of line is. He's not Steve Cohen in this respect. So I'll say this. I think that Pereira in center field and Dominguez in left field to start the 2024 season, I'm really excited about that, because you're letting these guys get action at the MLB level. Now they're going to be impact players. That they're going to be given the proper amount of time to develop their game. And like the alternative next year is what? Like it's Cody Bellinger. We still don't have a left fielder. And then it's Aaron Judge, right? Bellinger, would I love to get Bellinger? Absolutely. If they went in that direction, I would fully support it. But I'd also fully support, Everson Pereira filling center field or even bringing. I don't even think Harrison Bader's going to get a big payday, to be honest with you. I don't really think he's a below average offensive player. Pretty much has been for the majority of his career. He's really injured every single season. Like, who's going to pay him $15-20+ million per season? I don't know if anybody is. Is there a world where the Yankees bring him back as like a key, I guess starting center fielder, or even like a key depth piece, rotational piece that they can just use around the outfield? Who knows? I have no idea. But Dominguez is starting 2024. At some point, these guys have to graduate. At some point, you have to commit to the youth. And if he performs well in AAA over the next couple weeks, over the next 5 weeks, and he has a really good spring training again, how do you keep him down? Unless you go out and sign Cody Bellinger, how do you keep him down? Even if they do sign Cody Bellinger, you make it Dominguez versus Everson Pereira, and you let them battle it out. And then, worst case scenario, you elevate Pereira, and he's your utility outfielder. You can move him around. Bellinger's in center field, Dominguez, whoever. They can do that. They can kind of move around and plug and play wherever you need them to. What is your idea on that? Like Dominguez and Pereira, if they do out and go and sign up Bellinger, you still elevate those two guys and let them play, because they're going to play all the time, and you're going to want to give them opportunities.
Yeah, and again, like it all comes back to this point of these two guys have really good raw power in Pereira and Dominguez, right? So I was looking through the max exit velocity leaderboards, and I was looking through the WRC plus leaderboards for qualified hitters. So number one, out of the top 30 hitters in WRC plus this season, 25 of them have a max exit velocity above the major league average. So we're going to say about 110 or higher in terms of max exit velocity. And among all the guys with the max exit velocity that matches Everson Pereira's at 114.9, 100.5 or is higher. None of them have a WRC plus below 103, and that's George Springer, who's having a little bit of an unlucky season and has dealt with some injury stuff all year. But we're looking at the numbers here. You have Olsen, Ohtani, Jake Berger, Wilson Contreras, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Austin Riley, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, Adolis Garcia, Rafael Devers, Jorge Soler, Jack Sawinski, Seiya Suzuki, Manny Machado, Yandy Diaz, right? Like, these are all really good hitters. So, I understand the initial resentment for some fans surrounding the idea of hit the ball hard. It's super important. But that's where the game's going, right? Like, that's where the best hitters in baseball are, right? Like, we can't really sit here and try to, explain why certain guys are good without explaining what works in this league. And there are guys who do it without great power. I mean, Luis Arraez. I mean, we played Miami, I think a week ago. I don't even want to remember that series. But, he killed us, right? And he did it with a generational hit tool. But that's a generational hit tool. Like, how many people have the hit tool that Luis Arraez has? The batted ball direction, the ability to consistently get line drives, right? Like, that's something that is one of a kind. Right? So you can't bank on all of your players being able to do that. Now, in the same regard, you can't bank on all your players being Aaron Judge power-wise, but if they have really good power, they should utilize it. And if they have really good power and make really good swing decisions, it'll result in good things for you. And I also think it's really important for us to emphasize the point of, we're not arguing that the Yankees shouldn't have major league proven guys, that major league proven guys cannot help this team. But the idea that the Yankees need to build an offensive core, they need to have something that can sustain itself for 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons, so that they can stay perennially in a championship window, something that they really felt. It's been weird, right? 2017 to 2019, you were a dominant team, consistently one of the 2 or 3 best teams in baseball. 2020, you slip really hard from that. 2021, you slip again. 2022, you get close, but then in the second half you fall off, and you feel like the Braves, the Dodgers, the Astros, they all kind of lapped you at that point. And then 2023, it's been a disaster. So, you have to get back to being a dominant baseball team. You have to get back to, and I had this conversation with my dad yesterday, and I thought this really opened me up. You can't try to punch your ticket as a wild card team every couple of years and expect to win a title, because you have to play an extra series. You've got to go out and win your division, right? Like, you have to go out and try to win your division as much as possible. I mean, look at the frequent World Series winners, the guys who are consistently in contention for World Series, getting there every year, getting to NLCS, getting to the ALCS. They win their division, right? There's a reason why top seeds typically are favored to go and advance in the postseason, and you can't add the variance of a wild card game. I mean, again, drawing another parallel to football here, Alex, I mean, how big is that bye week, right? Like, how huge is that bye week for NFL teams, right? It's the same thing in baseball. I mean, it's a little different because it's a one-game situation, and now we have a 3-game series, but it's still 3 games where anything can happen. The Yankees got the brakes beaten off of them by the White Sox, right? Like, who's to say that they can't get the brakes beaten off of them by some lowly wildcard team if they were to win the division and fail to get a bye? You need to have a bye. You need to, right? We saw it against Cleveland. Cleveland had to start Aaron Savali in Game 5. We got to start Nestor Cortez, and we beat the brakes off of them in that game, and that ended up being the deciding factor. So, you have to go out and be able to consistently win in the regular season and win for the long term, and part of that is getting young players. Now, you do have to make good free agent acquisitions. You can't just build an all-rookie team and say, well, everything will go well, and all these guys are going to, hit as prospects, but you have to put yourself in a position where you have a lot of young talent, especially when you're paying Judge and Cole a lot of money, and it makes it a lot easier to eat that staying contract, right? Because I've mentioned this to friends in passing, but Jacoby Ellsbury was a Yankee, right? Jacoby Ellsbury and A-Rod were getting paid in 2017 a lot of money, and the Yankees were able to, work around that because Judge, Sanchez, Severino, those guys were getting paid nothing, and they gave them a ton of production. So, it balances itself out. If you have Stanton making $22 million, but, Everson Pereira comes up and he's a 3-WAR player and he's making league minimum, combined, that money now is actually efficiently spent, right? So that's what you're looking for here. You're looking to make up and win on the margins and win with your prospects, and then go out and focus on that top guy. And it puts you in a position where you can reset the tax. And Juan Soto's a free agent in the season following this one. That could be a big move. And it gives you a year to see what Dominguez and Pereira are.
Absolutely. I mean, right now I'm feeling at least a little bit of hope in terms of like the Yankees have chosen their destination. They've chosen where they want to go. And that is at least gathering information for 2024 and beyond. We've been hammering this home, guys. I mean, you saw our instant kind of reaction yesterday, and a lot of you guys were like, wow, like they actually did it. Like, you guys have been hammering this home for weeks now. And, at the very least, we're seeing them like commit to a path. And before we were just dead in the water, kind of just sitting in purgatory, like figuring out what do we do? Where do we go from here? There's light at the end of the tunnel, because at the very least, we're seeing what our future looks like. We're seeing what these youth prospects can do. We're going to be tuned the hell in for Everson Pereira's at bats. We're going to be tuned the hell in for Oswald Peraza's at bats. Next year, like, I feel like there's a world where we see Peraza starting in the infield. There's a world where Everson Pereira and Dominguez are starting in the outfield. There's a world where Austin Wells is a backup catcher for us. Like, there's a world where we graduate a lot of these players, and, you know, maybe Drew Thorpe even makes an appearance at some point next season, you know, which would be awesome because he's one of the most tantalizing prospects in our farm. Like, there's a lot of really good talent elevating their game. There's a lot of really good talent that could be impact players for us that we don't even have to spend a dime on, because we've been refining these guys for years now. It's time that we really lean into that, because I'm really tired of investing in these older players years and millions and trading for guys who come with big salaries. And, you know, that strategy is dead. If I'm the Yankees right now, I'm bringing in an analytical core, and maybe I'm, you know, revitalizing, revamping the way we're using analytics. And I'm saying, okay, what do we need to do to make our young prospects successful at the MLB level? What do the analytics say that we can get them to that point? And then we start to build our signings around them. That's what NFL teams do. That's what other teams, like NBA teams, they have their core guys that they draft, and then they refine them with supporting veterans that they pay and whatever it might be. So right now, I feel like we're following a pretty good spot. And here's the thing. You saw what the Orioles GM said yesterday. He was like, we can't pay all these guys that are going to be free agents one day. The Yankees can. The Yankees can afford to keep their guys. So why not, you know, have 6 years of cost controlled, and then you pay them down the road, 6 years, 7 years down the road. That's a good thing. That's a good problem to have, because by that time, Judge's contract is winding down. Stanton's deal is already off the books, and you have a lot of really good young talent for a really long time. So, you know, I feel like we're heading in the right direction, but I'm excited to see what you guys think below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.